Today I would like to talk about three great people in the Old Testament, Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, and how that they are linked with the number 17. We're going to look at the thought of coincidence or design. Many people say it is just by coincidence. Well, here is something to really think about. First of all, we'll talk about Abraham. We're reading from Genesis chapter 12. Now the Lord had said unto Abraham, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. I will make thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee, and in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Amazing promise. Later on, in another episode, we'll expand that to what that eventually developed into. But next we'll go to the other great patriarch mentioned here is Isaac. Abraham, Isaac. Isaac was Abraham's son. And in Genesis chapter 17, we read, And Abraham said unto God, O that Ishmael may live before thee. We know Ishmael is recognised as the father of the Arabs. And God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. So now we see the connection between Abraham and his blessing now goes through to Isaac, not Ishmael. We jump to the third person in this amazing passage or connection. And we're reading about Jacob now, the son of Isaac, the grandson of Abraham. In chapter 35 of Genesis, God appeared unto Jacob again when he came out of Paddan Aram and blessed him. And God said unto him, this is Jacob, Thy name is Jacob. Thy name shall not be called any more Jacob, which means supplanter, but Israel shall be thy name. And he called his name Israel, which means ruling with God. And God said unto him, I am God Almighty, be fruitful and multiply. We know he had 12 sons, at least one daughter, and from Jacob we get the 12 tribes of Israel. He certainly fulfilled that request from God. Be fruitful and multiply, a nation and a company of nations shall be of thee, and kings shall come out of thy loins. Another time I do this, I'll expand on that as well, but not today. Just linking the three great patriarchs according to their death, actually, the ages they were when they died. And finishing off with Jacob, and the land which I gave Abraham and Isaac, to thee will I give it, and thy seed after thee will I give the land. So here we see that they are the basic history of them there. I want to now talk about how they're linked together in life and they're linked together in death. So we'll look at life first. When the Sadducees, who didn't believe in the resurrection of the dead, one of the great answers Jesus gave to them was proof that there is such a thing as the resurrection of the dead. And I'm reading from Matthew chapter 22. But as touching the resurrection of the dead, have you not read that which was spoken unto you by God, saying, I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Jacob, and the God of Jacob. God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. So these three great people are linked together even in life hereafter. Abraham. It's interesting, it could have been, Jesus could have just said, I'm the God of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob. No, he made a point that of each one of these he was their God. I am the God of Abraham. I am the God of Isaac. I am the God of Jacob. So when you think that God links them together that much, we're now going to see an amazing pattern in their actual death, the ages they were when they died, and particularly connected to the number 17. Now in Bible numbers, each number has some sort of representation. Like number 7 is God's perfect number. God has lots of numbers that he really lays out that they mean something to him. We won't go into any more of that. We'll just go to 17, which means safety and security. We're going to link this also not just with the three great patriarchs and their death, but also with one other passage in the Bible. In Revelation chapter 7, we read of the 144,000, 12,000 from each tribe and so on. 144 represents perfect government. Now, it's interesting when you multiply 4 by 9, you come to the number 144. But if you add those numbers together, 4 plus 9, it equals 17. Then we jump to Abraham, who died at 175, recorded in Genesis 25, verse 7. 5 multiplied by 5 multiplied by 7 equals 175. 5 plus 5 plus 7 equals, again, 17. Then we go to Isaac, who died at 180, recorded in Genesis 35. Is 6 multiplied by 6 multiplied by 5 equals 180. 6 plus 5 equals 17, recorded in Genesis 35. And then lastly we go to Jacob, who died at 147, and that is 7 by 3, multiply those together, you get 147. Add them together, 7 plus 3 equals 17. So is this just an amazing coincidence, or is there amazing design in the death of these three great patriarchs, tied together forever? So we're going to look at, maybe in a moment, we'll look at Ishmael and Esau who come into this story. But just talking about these three great patriarchs, also connected with the perfect government of Revelation chapter 7, we think about the fact that you can't organise that yourself. People don't organise their death. They never know, unless they commit suicide. And nobody here committed suicide. They happened to die when God wanted them to die. And later on we see this amazing pattern in their deaths, in the ages they lived. Abraham 175, Isaac 180, Jacob 147, and then you see how it all links up. Just again, maybe by coincidence, but again I believe by design. Their three names, Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, just the letters of their three names, that happens to add up to 17. If you look at that, 7 with Abraham, 5 with Isaac, 5 with Jacob, 17. Another amazing coincidence. Now, in the Bible it says, in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, every word shall be established. We have 33 witnesses in the Bible to do with Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, where their three names are linked in a particular verse. 33 times. 23 in the Old Testament and even 10 in the New Testament. They are, as we often say, the foundation of the Bible. Really starts with this man Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, in the New Testament, quoting another one of these great links where their three names do appear together, is in Matthew chapter 8, where Jesus had a centurion come to him, begging him to help him with his sick servant. He must have been a good centurion. I think a lot of centurions couldn't care less about their servants. But this was a godly man, and he asked Jesus to help him. And Jesus said, I will come and heal him. And he said, no, you don't need to do that. You just speak the word. I'm a man in authority. When I tell one of my soldiers to do something, they always do it. They obey my word. If you would just speak the words, that my servant will be healed, I believe he will be healed. And Jesus went on to say, when he heard it, he marvelled in Matthew 8, and said unto them that followed, Verily or truly I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel. So the Israelites should have had far greater faith. They had the whole history of the Old Testament dealing with God. This man who knew basically nothing about God, he had more faith, he said. And I say unto you that many shall come from the east and the west, and shall sit down with Abraham, Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. So As you see, the Bible links these three great patriarchs constantly together, and we're going to see, as we just did see, that pattern in their death. Just before we finish, dealing with the other two names that are mentioned, or one hasn't been Esau, but Ishmael. Now, Ishmael was the father of the Arabs, and we see it in Genesis 16, and it describes him and his descendants, and he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of his brethren. They were not to immigrate like the children of Israel did. We have a commentary here from a man called Adam Clark, and he says about Ishmael, nothing can be more descriptive of the wandering, lawless, freebooting life of the Arabs than this. From the beginning to the present, they have kept their independence, and God preserves them as a lasting monument of his providential care and his incontestable argument of the truth of divine revelation. Had the books of Moses no other proof of their divine origin, the account of Ishmael and the prophecies concerning his descendants during a period of nearly 4,000 years would be sufficient. To attempt to refute it would be a most ridiculous presumption and folly. Adam Clark in his commentary. So Ishmael is perfectly described, and we know that he died at the age of 137. And we now realise, of course, there's no pattern there. When I talk about those other patterns of their death, no pattern. When we come to Esau, the next one down, Jacob's twin brother, he also is an important person to a certain degree. The Bible does not even record how old he was when he died. So obviously the age of the death of Esau is not important. God does not even record it. So I guess my thought is, we've got to remember that God's the one in charge of this and organises all these amazing things. A wonderful passage in the Bible, maybe backing that thought up, that nothing happens by coincidence when we're dealing with God in the Bible, is recorded in Isaiah chapter 46. And we read there, "Remember the former things of old, for I am God, and there is none else. I am God and there is none like me." When we go through these series, these bow tie outreaches, as we're now calling them, when we go, it's to prove how great God is. And I'll keep reading here. "Declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. Calling a ravenous bird from the east, the man that executeth my counsel from a far country." In other words, God's in control of nature and mankind. "Yea, I have spoken it. I will also bring it to pass. I have purposed it, and I will also do it." So, particularly with this story of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, one of the great stories. It is when we realise the importance of Abraham and how that most of the Old Testament is to do with him, his son Isaac, and his son Jacob, and his 12 sons, the children of Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel. Well, we just know there that, of course, God would link them together miraculously. Not only in their life, they're not only linked together in their life, as Jesus said, he's the God of the living, not of the dead, but he would link them together in their death. So, and that in the ages that they died, these three, an amazing, simple pattern exists. Nothing else like it. No coincidence here. Wonderfully organised by God. Maybe my final comment is, let us make sure that we'll be able to sit down with that wonderful centurion who believed God in Matthew 8, with Abraham, Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. So there's something to think about. Again, I hope this encouraged you to believe the Bible, because there really is nothing like it. Wonderful book, wonderful prophecies, all fulfilled. Thank you.